I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole my heart, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, May 23rd, 2021. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host, the one, the only,
Steve.
back in action again, Mr. Chris, the Back Bennett.
Oh, it's good to see you, man.
Good to
Glad
see
to be
you, my
here.
brother. So, as usual, we're going to go down the chat room here and say hi to folks. OT was here at one point.
Hey, OT, where you at?
Where you at? And we got, of course, we get Am and Chris in the room. And of course, we got my good friend, Rockite Man 2001. That's
Kite.
Alan. Hello, Alan.
Hello, Mal.
And we got John Swan in there.
Welcome, John.
Mr. Celtic, good to see you, sir.
Mr. Celtic, welcome.
And of course, we got hello, Mary. I think this is,
Hi,
I
Mary.
don't know if this is Mary's first time here, but first time she said hello in chat. Hello, Mary. Welcome.
Welcome.
Troy's Reviews is in the house. Hello, Troy. Of course, our good friend Brian and Chewy go hiking.
Brian and Chewy.
I see an Enigma is in the house again, too. Pat over at Squatch Talk is here as well.
Pat.
Brandy, hello. Good to see you here.
Brandy.
So going down the list here, we got Donnie 720, just says 2.
Hey, Donnie. All right.
Nikki Cologne. Nikki, how are you? Good to see
Welcome,
you
Nikki.
here. Bob Lemley in the house.
Bob.
Don Fuller's in the house, too. We said hello to Pat.
Welcome, Don.
The Tall Ones is also in the house.
All right.
My good buddy. We used to work with this guy, Mr. Jeff Trifoletti. Good to see you, Jeff.
Welcome, Jeff.
Of course, Sherry's in the house as
Hi,
always.
Sherry.
And probably right next to her are Hope and the Watson Rufus. So, anyway, Alan says, howdy, guys. Darn cot blocks.
Yeah.
Stop yelling at us. Anyway. So, anywho, here we are after a couple of weeks hiatus. For folks who didn't know, I was at, let me get some pictures up here for show everybody. I was at the, okay, or maybe not, It's trying.
It was at nighttime.
That's right. Well, let's try this one more time. That happens every once in a while, but the photos will crash. There we are. There we are at the Sasquatch Triangle Bigfoot Conference.
I recognize that place.
That was in Coshocton, Ohio. And a nice time. Of course, while I was there, I saw some characters like Shane Corson, past guest from the Olympic Project, of course.
Yeah.
Now this one, maybe. And of course, Eric Altman was in the house. And then we took a little trip over to Salt Fork at one night after the conference, and we had to stop and take a picture of the sign by Bigfoot Ridge.
Bigfoot Ridge.
So that's been the fun stuff we've been doing. All my backgrounds just shut down.
Well, you got to expect some gremlins now that you started show streaming.
There we go.
There we go.
So anyway, let me hang on. This may alleviate some of the problem. I have to kick some of these off. There we go. All right. Can only hold so much. The computer. You want to stress it. So anyhow, look who's in the house is Jay Bachochin.
Hey, Jay.
And, Fango 35. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Welcome.
So, and Ryan Adams showed up too. Not Brian Adams. Ryan Adams.
Hey, Ryan. Welcome.
Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah. Well, Jay. Jay. Steve. And Chris, we've been talking for a while now that we may just go to a YouTube only format, because I have problems communicating a lot of times to Facebook, because every so often Facebook will want to require a recertification. And it's getting a little difficult. And I think that for the broader base, I think going to YouTube is pretty easy for everybody.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we're going to be probably doing going forward. Probably, I would say July 1st. So July 1st, we're going to be YouTube only. So folks that are on Twitter, you can hobble on over to the tube and catch us all there.
Is Facebook doing that for like political stuff or what? I mean, because we're not political on the show. We don't do politics. So
yeah,
I don't understand it.
I don't know. The tall one says that we double checked and Leon isn't in the back waiting. No, Leon will be here between 9:30 and 9:45. So so we have Steve the Curious Cryptid filling in. Well, actually, he's part of the conversation, but he's going to be carrying the load of the show. There's a lot of cases people say is me, but he'll be carrying the
CC's got the weight of the show on his shoulders, but
that's right.
They're strong and able.
Yep, and even Pat agreed that don't split between Facebook and YouTube. Just go YouTube and the audio side. I agree. Of course, just a quick reminder to all our folks out there before we start tonight's fun frolicking. If you're listening on Anchor FM, either on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Store, Apple Podcasts, or any of those wonderful services, if you're free on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, pop on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Steve Kulls, and we will sure to have fun with you as well as the rest of our troops here. And oh my goodness, here we are. Jimmy Trick's in the house. Charlie Wonton's in the house. And Dave Winter's in the house. So
yes, Dave, you got to have this.
So anyway, and before we introduce, but our guest is more than welcome to comment on this early breaking news we had this morning from, of course, the Guardian newspaper over in the UK, claiming that these Yowie hunters claim to have found two pictures of two FLIR pictures or FLIR video, which only lasts about 10 seconds, of an alleged Yowie. And of course, in one picture, you really can't tell much because it's behind a bush. But in the second picture, we tell a lot. And here it is. Ta-da!
Not
Not a Yowie.
I didn't know they had binoculars.
No,
Well-
certainly does look like they're looking through like field glasses. That's for sure.
That
Looks
would
like-
explain why they can see you coming from so far away. They've got their own set of binoculars.
That's right. They're Squatch binoculars.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm not seeing it here. I'm not seeing a Sasquatch there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's wearing shorts and look like they go to just above the
I
knee
think
there.
that's just a hairy butt.
So I don't know, folks. The panel, thumbs up or thumbs down? I'm giving it a thumbs down.
no.
Chris?
They definitely.
And
down,
it's unanimous, thumbs down.
yeah.
All right, on to the next one. So, anywho, CC, Steve, tell us about yourself and how you got involved in this crazy business of Bigfoot research and why you're not on meth if you are in this business.
Well, about 20 years ago, when I was in high school and a couple of years past there, I did go out camping a lot and did spend a lot of time out there. And did have a couple of experiences, but
This is the first time I'm seeing Ryan Adams in our chat. I'm glad he's here because he said, crap, the Yetis have flares now too. Well played, Brian.
Awesome.
Well played.
I didn't even think FLIR. Yeah.
They have them too.
Oh, it's killing me, Ryan.
So anyway, life got busy. I got married, got a job. I kind of set all this aside because I figured, someone's going to have this figured out in a year or two. That was 20 years ago. And so still waiting for that.
Yep.
Couple years ago, I heard a voice in the woods that sounded a bit like some sort of Native American language, maybe something like Inuit.
Mhm.
And I was out there alone, so no witnesses. My cell phone microphone wasn't sensitive enough to pick it up, but I looked. I had two directions to look. The ears will resolve a direction, and and you can't necessarily discern ahead or behind. So I looked ahead where the road was, where someone would be walking up if someone were having a conversation walking up my driveway, and there was nothing there. And when I turned around behind me, by that time, there was nothing there.
Gotcha.
But that got me starting to look at stuff again and wonder what was going on. And then I ran back into the Sierra Sounds that I had heard a long time ago and started to look up if there were Bigfoot sightings in the area where we have our vacation property, and there are just over the ridge. So I started to dig into, where is this advanced for 20 years? There must have been great strides of progress.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
What progress?
Yeah.
And so I started looking at DNA, and this was one of my favorites. You had Dr. Hart on, and I saw there was a DNA study. Oh boy, someone's really taking this seriously. Bear in mind, this is May 2019, and I start. Oh great! So what are they studying? When are they going to publish? Because I figured if they'd published, I probably would have heard about it.
Yep.
And I slept through all of that with my head down in business. And so, this is done. To borrow a line from Aliens, whatever happened here, it's over.
Yep.
I started digging back into DNA late that summer. And then around the early 2020, Dr. Meldrum put me in touch with Dr. Hart. And a lot of interesting things happened then. Then the current health crisis came up, so I ended up having a lot of free time on my hands and ended up going out into the woods once in a while.
Comment from Larry Meitzner saying, I think you need to check your facts before hammering people. Can you please clarify whom you're speaking about? But anyhow, let's continue on.
I hope that wasn't about the Yowie photo.
It could be the Yowie photo. It could be the, hey, I'm just going at, hey, these are the pictures they put up.
Yeah. That's the thing. For the
not a Yowie, but he may be speaking about a particular DNA study too.
Well, there are two actually to choose from. There's the psych study, which is couched in its own interesting way. And as far as the Ketchum study goes, as I dug through the Ketchum study, I found so many problems, potential problems anyway, with the chemistry and things that she put into her report that demonstrate the kind of problems that she were having. And they're common problems. And Dr. Hart covers that so well in his book. And it's really clear and very concise.
Gotcha. Oh, he's saying
the psych study, though, I find that one interesting because, they had 30 samples of hair.
He's like, yes, they said that was a researcher.
Okay, that must be the photo then.
Yeah. Let's just double check that. Let's just check that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We didn't come here to make anybody mad. And, anybody can look at a photo and see whatever they want to see.
Okay, so
when I look at it, I don't see...
I have checked my facts. Let's look at this really quickly if we can get this thing to scroll here. Yowie Hunter claims thermal images he snapped in a national park proved mythical creatures exist. Yowie Hunter snapped a series of blah, blah, claims that proves. So the pictures he claims, Assistant Researcher said he identified 2 heat signatures in the dense area of bushland. See, it doesn't say that this is a researcher. It said he identified 2 heat signatures in a dense scrub area in the bushland pictured.
That is at least ambiguous.
That is.
Yeah, the other one is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the way I took it is, it says right here, right, claims the photos taken in May, blah 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 blah, show 2 8-foot tall yowies. Well, there you have it.
No.
Okay, and the strangely shaped one and the one with the field glasses are the only 2 images.
Yeah, I suppose.
If those are the only 2 images, that's kind of the claim then.
Well, the article is very ambiguous because it says it doesn't say pictured. It said he identified 2 heat signatures in the area in bushland pictured below.
Yeah, the one picture is to me is clearly a researcher holding some binocs or maybe a therm.
Right.
Looking through it. The other video picture, whatever, is a little ambiguous. You don't really know. It's kind of interesting. I will say that. But now, if the same guy is saying that this is a photo of 2. And one of the photos,
maybe that is a comparison photo, but it's the article. Okay, gotcha. Well, the article itself is very ambiguous. In fact, the second picture, these 2 pictures have been floating around Facebook today. That's what forced me to go to the article, and I saw nothing in the article. It says Assistant Researcher said he identified 2 heat signatures in dense scrub area in the bushland, and you see 2 heat signatures here. So maybe it's just a bad article.
Maybe.
So if indeed, this is a comparison picture and not the Yeti, we have correctly identified that this was a person. with a FLIR, with a FLIR or something. And I think Ryan was right. It is a FLIR.
Yeah. So that top photo is interesting. It is.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
That it is.
But see, here's the thing, though.
When the video makes it even more interesting.
Yeah.
If we get the video play again. Oh, no, wrong. Well, okay.
Well, maybe I'll look through it and see if I can find another story on there that's a little bit
let's
better
take a look at
coverage.
the Australia. Maybe the Australia. So the reason why I have it muted is because
yeah, we don't want that. Yeah.
So hey, oh, we got a commercial first.
Wonderful.
So anyway, while we're on here,
yeah. See, here's my thoughts on that coverage there. If it's showing, if it says he found 2, and one of the photos is actually the researcher, then obviously something's wrong there. Okay.
Yeah.
But
and we never necessarily named it. Who it even was.
If it's a comparison photo of the researcher against what he saw, now that's a different story. Yeah.
And that's worth doing, but between those two images, it's hard to tell if he's standing in the same place.
So we got to watch the commercial, and the actual video is just going to buffer. Isn't that nice? Okay, well, anyway.
Commercial played great.
Enough of that. Oh, okay, good. There we go. Okay, back to this. So apparently, this is a researcher. Okay. If that's what they're saying, and that's what they did say, according to Larry in the BFRO chat, then we stand corrected. And we're always, we've rightly assumed that article, as you can see, was very ambiguous. So it was like, well, I got this thing behind a bush, or I got this very clear picture, and they both, there's no clear indication that that was a recreation or anything like that in that.
Yeah.
Which is always kind of.
Whoever wrote that article needs to improve on their skills a little bit.
That's right.
Just a little bit.
And the researcher probably needs to improve on their recreation skills if that was the intent of that picture.
Yeah, put something in there like recreation photo or something, because if in the FLIR especially, you can't tell, that way it's not confused. And that's
that's the thing. Until we find out more about this, okay. If the article is saying that he got footage of 2 creatures, and that was supposed to be both of them, when one of them is clearly a researcher, I think we can all pretty much say that. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if they're saying, oh yeah, we got 2, here's these 2 photos.
Yep.
No, you didn't get, you may have got 1, but you definitely didn't get 2. And if you're lying about getting 2, could you be lying about getting the 1?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the thing.
I think the latter part is just a media problem, and
maybe.
So much media has difficulty getting basic facts right.
Yeah, because there was a lot of people on Facebook that took it as those are the 2 pictures, and everybody was looking at that picture going, what the hell? Including myself, like, how would they even put this out there? It's just so obviously a man, and the holding the thing up made no sense to me. So I was like, well,
got to be a mix.
Let's kind of put it up for a laugh.
Yeah.
And then, thanks to Larry coming on saying, hey, they clarified this on the BFRO chat. So makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So anyway, let's get back on to Steve. So Steve, what did you do for a living?
Kind of did with the current health crisis, but I am a software engineer. I do consulting work in a lot of the last 25 years has been in air safety systems.
Right.
I got into avionics a long time ago, and I've been working for R&D companies. One of the things I worked on for the last year is I don't have one here. I'm looking for something about the right size. A radar, a complete contained radar unit that's about this big, and that's messing with the virtual green screen.
Yeah. Now the question I have is, can that be used on land?
Yes.
Oh, Nice.
In fact, the company has been doing research in cooperation with the government, but that's still largely under NDA.
Gotcha. And we just want to throw out, we have, I believe her name is Kia from New Zealand in the chat tonight too, as well. So welcome. And it's coming in as Aerotera Cryptids. She's from New Zealand. So welcome. And welcome to Bomber too, as well. Bomber is in the house.
Good to see you.
Well, so very, very cool.
And so I do work with high reliability software systems, and one of the things I've been looking at doing is last summer I got together with someone who has a research area near Mount Rainier, and spent a lot of the summer just trying to corroborate the claims of activity in the area. There are interesting things going on in the forest. The most exciting thing I got on audio recorder was a bat flying over. And the most exciting thing I got on thermal was a couple of mice and a bird in the bush.
Yeah.
But I did have a couple of trees that magically fell down on a calm August night. A couple of weeks after, there was a big rain and windstorm. You'd think the trees that are about to fall over might come down in the rain and wind.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. That's always interesting, and that's a pretty good sign something's going on around. Especially, if you hear one tree falling in the woods, well, hey, you're lucky, dude. You're one of the people that got to be in the woods and actually hear a tree fall.
Yep.
But if another one falls just a little while after that, okay, something's going on there. There's more going on there than luck.
It certainly feels like that when you're there, and especially when the second one falls 180 degrees around you in the other direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
It feels like intent.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, and I have been on with Steve on other shows over at Squatch Talk Radio with Pat and at the same time Leon. And, Steve has impressed me he has a great mind for this, to putting facts to paper, and, a lot of great ideas he's working on right now. That kind of, I would think, make us have to work a little bit less, but at the same time work smarter. So that's really what I've been getting from Steve, and it's just tremendous
That's part
stuff.
of the idea behind it.
Yeah.
One of the things I would like to do is just put out a network of passive motion sensors around the camp. Maybe something that stands on a 5-foot tall PVC pole that you just jam down into the dirt, and put a bunch of those about 50 yards out around your camp, and just know when there are things moving.
Right.
But then you can add to that, you can add lights to that and things like that. So if a sensor comes on over here, well, you turn on a light over there and see what kind of activity that produces from whatever is moving.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Now, we figured out her name is Aotearoa. So
You don't hear that one too often.
no.
Or at least I don't. And I'm in the middle of Kentucky here, and that's pretty much in the sticks. So
I saw
everybody here is named Bob and
see
John.
people don't understand that the chat for me flies by, because not only do I have YouTube talking, I have Facebook talking, occasionally Twitter's talking, and it's going fast. So I just caught it. I kind of misread what he said. Kia ora is a Maori greeting from New Zealand. As it flashed by me, it said, I saw Kia something or else, greetings from New Zealand. That's what I saw.
Ah, okay.
So that's why. But her name is Aotearoa.
Okay.
Aotearoa. Okay, that's a cool name.
Yeah.
We don't hear that one every day in Kentucky, that's for sure.
Nope. So tell us, you had sent over a chart, and if you want to, I can put that chart up.
Sure.
Yeah. Talking about, there it goes. Maybe.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
No, that wasn't it.
Really? Jesus Christ. Yep. And everything just collapsed.
Okay. Well, that's fine. We can
here we go. Let's
talk
try it
about it
again.
anyway while you're struggling to bring it up.
Here we go.
Now, there wasn't a name for this quite a number of years ago, but you would have recognized the thing without the name. Have you ever known someone who spoke with absolute surety about some particular topic that you actually know about, and they're just blowing smoke?
Yes, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, that is an example of what's become known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. These two psychologists wrote a paper on this, and the basic idea is people will have an absolute surety about a subject, and for all of us, for every subject, we're someplace on this curve, and for different subjects, we're at different places on this curve. The thing is, when you're on the right side of the curve, where your confidence in a subject is based on the actual knowledge, you know where you are on that curve. If you're trying to do something with that subject and it doesn't work because you don't know what you're doing, you might actually be somewhere on the left side of that curve where you're absolutely confident about the subject, but you don't really know anything, and you don't even know what you don't know, and you don't know how much you don't know.
Right.
So you, Steve, as an investigator, have to have a very broad knowledge base of a broad variety of subjects, so that when something comes up during an investigation, you at least know on your own, do you have a passing familiarity with this subject? Have you studied this subject a lot more so you have some confidence in the subject, or do you need to consult some expertise to get some more information on the subject? As an engineer, I also have to have a very broad knowledge base for being able to solve a wide variety of potential problems I may encounter in the work that I do. That broad knowledge base allows people who have all of that information at hand. First of all, we've spent a whole lot of our lives being confronted with a question, and it's easier to just say, I have no idea, than to try to BS your way through it with someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yep.
It gives us the ability to know right away we're at the bottom of that curve, or maybe somewhere up the right side.
Right.
The problem for most people is, in order to realize that you don't know enough about the subject, you have to know enough about the subject to know where you are in this spectrum. And that's a kind of a paradox.
Right.
With our backgrounds, with the kind of background where you have a very broad knowledge base, you're more willing to admit, I don't know. That's something that's really important, because people have a natural tendency to fill in information. They have a natural tendency to want to answer questions, to want to sound like they know what they're talking about, and they will try to push through it, sometimes with success and sometimes with people, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
And this isn't based necessarily on knowledge out of books. This is based on practical knowledge, a lot of it.
Practical, experiential knowledge.
Right.
It's not just schooling.
Right. So that's just to clarify, David. David's comment saying knowing a lot of information doesn't mean you're correct. University are full of professors who know a lot of crap. That's true. But I in the context that I believe Steve is talking about, he's talking about people that go out and test their stuff and what works, what doesn't. And out of that, you come to this realization that you're never a certain everything positive 100%, but you have your theories and you're testing them and some work. And hey, you're getting results. So you're doing something right. So you're on the right side of the curve. The people on the left side of the curve are the people, and we tend to see those people who lack employment, who are out there every day doing Sasquatch. Well, we're out here doing our Sasquatch research. And we were surrounded by them squatches. There was 4 or 5 of them today, but they never come across with any evidence of what they say whatsoever. And but they'll tell you, the secrets, all the secrets you need to know to draw in the Sasquatch, but they never have any proof of it. And that's the cocksure and dead wrong type of people.
Right. And you also probably encounter them in some of your investigative work.
Yeah. Well, you can take a look at this and you probably encounter people in all walks of life of this. Yes. The mechanic who says, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. That's that. You don't need that." And then all of a sudden your wheel falls off.
Including absolutely PhD scientists. They may know what they have their PhD in, and they may not know a whole lot of other things.
We have just gotten the 3-minute warning.
But this is a problem that people have, that everyone has. And if you're aware of this sort of thing, you can question yourself as to whether or not you're really familiar with something. And you can figure out for yourself where you are if you ask the questions.
So let me ask you this, Steve. In looking at this chart, the Dunning-Kruger effect, people who are on the left side, even though they look at this chart and they'll tell you that they're on the right side of the chart.
Absolutely.
And so there's no changing them. A lot of them.
Yeah,
that is true.
We should all never be afraid to say, "I don't know."
People ask me all the time. It's kind of funny. I do a lot of guest spots. In fact, I'm guest spotting on a podcast tomorrow. That's broadcast on iHeartRadio, pretty popular program. And they always ask me, "Well, how many Sasquatch do you think there really are?" And I turn around and I was like, "I have no idea. I'm not an ecologist. I wouldn't know. I'm not a biologist. I wouldn't know."
But how many Sasquatch can stand on the end of a pin?
Don't know that either. The one, somebody may ask, and then somebody says, "Well, what do you think the life expectancy of one is?" And then I went, "Well, that I can only suggest. I'd say within reason, 35 to 50 years old." Well, how did you come across that? Because that's the average lifespan of all your higher primates. In fact, if it wasn't for modern medicine, most of us would kick off about 45 years old.
Yep. Longer than you if you piss it off.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the things about this, and one of the things I have learned in doing classes.
David said, 0 pins hurt.
And doing classes and education on subjects that I help clients with, you generally can't confront someone who's on the wrong side of this curve with facts and convince them. They're gonna entrench their beliefs, and you're never gonna get anywhere with that. The way you do it is you impart knowledge, you try to work on that learning curve, and they'll, as they try to incorporate what you're telling them about it, they will start to actually learn about that subject. And then they'll begin to realize that, wow, there's a lot more I can learn.
Here we go. So like I said, we have the greatest audience in the world here. Steve Cawthron, the gentle giant. Good to see you, sir. Sorry I didn't get back to you. I was working Friday night, so I couldn't even make it. But he said the Dunning, and like I said, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a hypothetical cognitive bias stating that people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. Yeah, probably.
Not just low ability. People naturally overestimate their ability, period.
Yep. And then John Bush says, reminds me of an old farmer I once worked, used to say it takes a smart man to admit you're stupid. And without any further ado, we're getting crowded in here. Okay, everybody move up. Hey, Leon, how are you?
Welcome, Leon.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm pretty bagged, but I saved a few brain cells for you. Hopefully. I kind of just breezed through a little bit. I spent a couple of minutes just seeing what you guys were chatting about and stuff, so I kind of have a rough idea what you're yakking about. So you got the Dunning-Kruger effect on there.
That's right.
I know all because I feel it's true.
Later on, we're going to have the Freddy Krueger effect.
Oh, yeah. Well, happened already since my last video, so.
Yeah. That's when you go over to the mother-in-law's house. Oh, the Freddy Krueger effect. No. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress.
You digress.
I see Leon with a big grin on his face, and it just makes me chuckle and tell jokes. So.
After a day like I've had today, anyone you want to throw out there, I'll appreciate every bloody one of them, I'll tell you. So what are you guys talking about? Besides the Dunning-Kruger effect.
We were talking about the Dunning-Kruger effect.
And the chat is hopping. I'm sorry.
The chat is hopping. And yeah, look. So look, OT's like, there was a good paper called Unskilled and Unaware about InfoSec professionals who got a certificate or whatever, and they are rather incompetent but don't even know it. It's like the participation trophy.
Oh, yeah.
It does reveal itself in how often they have to look for a new job.
Very true.
That's a good point, Steve.
Look at the resume. You've been employed by 75 people in the last 3 years. Can you tell me why? So how many Bigfoot have you seen and why? So, all right, Leon, let's give Leon the floor for a second. Leon, tell us about yourself. Welcome to the gaggle. And I'll leave it there.
Well, can't you ask me a couple of questions so I can debrief my brain for what I just came out of? Because I just got here 5 minutes ago. Ask me some questions first. That would probably help me kind of get into being online right now because my brain's still back at work. So
my goodness. So I have to introduce him myself, I suppose. Well,
you introduced me last time as Leon Smith. I don't know why people have such a hard time with my name. And especially talking to Thomas. Thomas is going, who's Leon Smith?
No, but I got it right. I got it right for the show, for Christ's sake.
All right, I'll tell you what I do.
Don Fuller said the mystery men haven't gotten to Leon either.
Thanks, Don. Oh, yeah, they haven't got to me yet. I don't know. I deal a lot with the brain. That's what I do professionally. How people think, why you think what you think, how you believe, why you believe, and unfortunately, we're not in control of our lives as much as we think we are. 95% of everything you have in your 5.5 pounds of jelly in your skull called your brain. Unfortunately, 95% of it you picked up by osmosis. So, how do you distinguish what is from facts compared to non-facts? And that's why, like when Steve's talking about Dunning-Kruger effect or any kind of scientific method makes you know that what you know is solid. If you don't know if something's solid, then you have this wavering psyche about you, and your capacity to be swayed is fairly high. And it's kind of like illusionists. I mean, the best people for illusionists to do illusions on are usually people in the scientific community. And a lot of the research that was done early on in the early 50s and 60s regarding paranormal, they took all the scientists hook, line, and sinker because the scientists were looking to see, well, they did it, but they didn't ask the right questions. So they had to ask Randy the Amazing. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he has a $1 million reward for anyone who can show any kind of paranormal ability or anything like that.
Well, he had a $1 million reward. He's very well dead now.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's still running though. It still runs through his foundation. So it's still sitting out there waiting for someone to just come in and say, you know what, I've read your mind. I know the combination to the safe. This is what the combination is. Here, congratulations. Here's $1 million. You know, there was one group of people that did kind of win the prize, but what they used was it was a computer program that you would put onto your head.
Oh, like
and,
an algorithm, basically. An algorithm,
yeah,
basically.
and it was more of a fundraiser in that. So it was publicity fundraiser kind of thing. But yep, to date, nothing shows anything supernatural whatsoever in anything. So in anything that has ever walked, that is flesh and blood on the planet, zip, zero, nothing, sorry. So to pull up that there's something out there, give me another reference point that's out there. In the
Well, let me ask you a question. And this is a very interesting question because I work with, you know what I do? I work with criminals. I don't work with criminals. I work against them, but technically makes me work with them. So my question is this, is when you're dealing, like people say, you know, the scientific experiments, you know, one of the things that the scientific theory is that you create an experiment, and if it repeats itself, it's basing your, but when you deal with beings, be it humans, be it whatever, you're dealing with dynamics. So
wait. What do you mean by dynamics? Define dynamics to me before you go skipping down that road there.
Okay, so you're dealing with people in creatures that are unpredictable. For example, if you wait on the same road every day for me to come home, I don't always go home that way. If every Tuesday I have hot dogs for dinner. Well, there may be a Tuesday I don't have hot dogs for dinner. Or maybe I'm not that pattern. You can never tell what I want for dinner. Depends on my fancy of the day. Just like the predictability for criminals. Like, okay, they're hitting my store every other day. Can't count on that. Never can. Can't count on the time. Can't count on any of that. So I find making an experiment on something as dynamic, I mean, changing, it's not to me, it makes it really difficult to do an experiment, repeat, experiment, have positive results, repeat, and have positive results again, because you're looking at something that is dynamic. It's not for example, and back in the early 90s, they set up these things and they said, oh, this is going to curtail your in-store theft. It's called electronic article surveillance, EAS. Yeah. And you put these little tags on these things, and everything went down for about a month. And then all of a sudden, and all these companies invested in all this technology and decided, after a couple of months, we're going to start letting our dynamic individuals that face off against dynamic individuals go, where there's less of a force. And then all of a sudden they figured it out. They come back and that's always been my argument. No matter what stuff you throw at the bad guys, they are dynamic. They will overcome that challenge eventually. And I agree with, I agree with that. The point is that it makes experimentation in a Sasquatch field very difficult, because
there's different types of experiments that have to be done in different types of depending on what you're doing. I mean, humans are the only pack animal that follow unstable pack leaders. There's no other animal on the planet that is a pack animal that will follow an unstable a pack leader. Only humans do that. So when you're looking at a species, what you're looking for is patterns. And of course, the patterns, what you're looking for, the farther out you can get so you have an objective observance of a larger scale, the more data you will be able to collect to find the patterns that happen to be in it. And you do that as an investigator.
Sure.
You have enough knowledge in your 5.5 pounds of jelly that have assisted you over the years of learning about asking yourself the right questions to people that you're investigating, right? And so that's what when you're dealing with something like that. And I don't care what animal it is, any animal that you deal with, if you're just talking, or even insects or whatever like that, yeah, the odd time they might not come back. But the question is, out of the percentages, why would they choose that way to go home or go to work or whatever? Why that way? And if you think you're in process of that, that's like you're consciously thinking that. No, the first time, say you got a new job, you've never been to the job before, you have to discover where that is. So you're being consciously aware as you try to drive there, because you want to make sure you get there early to impress your boss. So you're looking at street signs and all this kind of stuff. Of course, it's a little harder now with GPS because everyone just uses their GPS to get you somewhere. But as the week progresses and you know how to do that, then it changes from being a conscious decision to being a pattern map in your brain, because you got there last time by doing this, and eventually you'll just drive there automatically. It's kind of like if you go on long road trips, all of a sudden it seems like 4 hours gone by in about 30 minutes. You don't remember the last 2 hours you were just driving down the highway at 100 miles an hour. It's like, geez, where'd that end up coming from?
Right.
You know? Yep. Because your conscious is now gone back and your subconscious is now taking the helm. So that's why you can do multiple tasks after you've been to a location numerous times, because your subconscious is doing it. Now, what your subconscious is also supposed to do, because it takes a picture or a pattern, is notify the front part of your brain when there's something different that all of a sudden appears in the pattern. And if it doesn't do that, and this is why you've always heard sometimes on news reports and that a person hits somebody with their car and that, and they always say, "I never seen them." It's because their subconscious didn't promote or update the visual data quick enough for them to actually see that there was something different in the pattern. Because you got 3 brains in your brain. You don't just have one brain, and you're not your brain. And 2 of those brains are very what do you want to say? Primal. They're not attached to anything logical. They're programming systems that fill in a whole bunch of blanks. So you're not thinking of seeing me because your brain's already just doing that for you. Until I just said that, now you're aware of seeing me. You're not just listening to me. Other than now, you're now listening to me, realizing you're listening to me because we're talking about this level of kind of conscious awareness. But most times it's just running automatic all the time, and so that's where the confusion lies a lot of times. And your brain pulls up like Dunning-Kruger effect, cascade effect, Parkinson's law of triviality, all these different mind things.
I just saw a big question mark flash above Chris's head.
Chris, what is it?
What the hell is he talking?
Yeah. Well, I know what, and again, I just got from work, so I'm pretty multi-leveled right now in my thinking. So and if you get me going, it's kind of hard to shut me up a little bit. So make sure you interrupt me and say, "I'm not following you," or you need to explain that a bit better. So.
No, the process of talking about consciousness and how we think is a good thing, because I think that these creatures use that against us. I think they know how we perceive the environment around us when we're walking through the woods. As I'm walking towards trees and have trees moving from the front to the back, my consciousness is seeing that motion. And so if they move against that motion, move with me, I think they know that I would know, well, wait a minute, something moved over there. However, if they want to move the other direction, they're moving the same way everything else is. Wouldn't give it a second thought.
Well, it's a little more complicated. I say that. So for instance, if we were on a larger screen here, you would see all this stuff behind me, right? Mm-hmm. See these little picture over there of a guy playing I've only had it in my house for 10 years. You'd think I would know right now consciously what he was playing, but it's, one of these trumpet kind of things. You got a Thomas Steenberg picture or book over here and all that kind of stuff. So you're looking behind me right now, and anybody
there you are.
Okay, so you see all the stuff behind me, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we kept talking and stuff like that, now what's happening without you realizing it is your brain is actually reproducing this picture. So it's already imprinted, and as long as this picture stays consistent, that image appears to actually, when you're looking at me, you think you're actually seeing it, but you're actually not seeing it. You only have 1 degree of 20/20 vision. It's the width of your thumb if you hold your thumb out in front of you. Your brain's reproducing all of this. And so when you're driving down the car and you see the road that you're very familiar with because you drive it every single day, as long as the pattern, because your brain loves patterns because it just can move on to other things to use its resources on. And that's the problem is if your primal part of your brain is not alerting the front part of your brain, especially on your peripherals, it's very easy for you to get fooled, especially if you're going into say you come online, you want to look for a Sasquatch. You'll see shadows off in your left and right. Or you ghosts going, I'm going to a cemetery to look for ghosts. Okay, I've already primed my brain because I'm going to a cemetery to look for ghosts. I'm going into the woods to look for Sasquatch. As soon as you said with intent to your system, this is what I'm going to do, then your system automatically starts looking for evidence to validate this intent that you have now put into your brain. For instance, if you wanted to buy a new car and you find a really decent Dodge truck, Ford truck, Chevy truck, no one yell at me for the truck. See, that I didn't say a specific truck, so you can harp on me.
Hey, I miss Chevrolet.
Yeah, right. So as soon as you decide and you find out whatever style of truck you have, all of a sudden you start seeing them all over the place. Now it's not like all of a sudden somebody's read your mind and they start reproducing all these trucks in your neighborhood. It's because your brain's not interested in the information until with intent you choose that I like that truck. Then your brain starts showing you all these kind of trucks. So you have to be really cautious when you're in the forest. And I always encourage people do practicums. I like getting spooked by squirrels, rabbits, because my system doesn't know what it is. And my brain is going to project on that whole thing, taking my system with it.
Oh, yeah.
To help me discipline myself to stay neutral, which is very tough to do.
Yep.
and it forms pareidolia, like goatee, touches in my goatee. You should see my back here. You want to see a whole family and tribe of them. Just saying. I'm just saying.
Getting spooked is good too. I can attest to that. I sit out on a leaning against a tree for a couple hours one time in the woods, and I heard specific, undeniable bipedal walking in leaves, crunch, crunch, and I thought, this has got to be a Sasquatch. He's sneaking up from behind. I can hear him back there, but if I don't dare turn around, so I wait, and about 3 or 4 minutes later, a turkey walks around in front of me. So, at that time, I was convinced, there is a Sasquatch, coming up on me. And it was a turkey.
Yeah. Well, Steve commented about this one time we were chatting about, recorders and stuff, because we get stuff sent to us all the time. And people have no idea that, listen, I got a recorder for you, and a recording I want you to listen to, and it's right. They don't realize it's either a mouse or something that's right next to the bloody recorder, or a deer. I mean, really, the problem with most of us is we have no idea what it means to be in the forest like it would have been if we were Aboriginals or what's the other word I'm looking for? People in the jungle and that style of living. That rhythm is not in our system very often, and I have a guy that's on our team called Nick Evans from Raw Skills Bushcraft. And I mean, the guy I'm not BSing you too. He literally runs the top of mountains, like runs. He doesn't, he's doing a 408 kilometer competition right now. They drop him off with a helicopter. All he has is a piece of paper. He has to bring all his own food, and he's got 8 days to make it to the finish line.
Do you think Todd Standing can make it?
Only if he's climbing up water walls. I know. So, I mean, that's the thing is I deal with the brain, and I'm fooled by all this stuff. And I keep saying that to people. I mean, I'm as receptive as that's why you have to check out how your brain works. And that's why you do the practicum, like you're saying, Chris. You literally go out and you feel what you feel what it's like. That's a great thing about the bush. It teaches you who you really are when everything's stripped away. So as long as you got your security of your cell phone, if I go up top of the mountain here, I got no way of contacting out unless I got my my GPS emergency line with me. So I'm screwed if anything is wrong, goes wrong. And the problem with most of us is we spend a lot of time distracting ourselves from actually being in our own skin. And one of the things about being in the bush is learning about being in your own skin. And you'll see that you're scared little girl. I keep challenging Pat from Squatch Talk. and I know he's in chat right now, about, what I want you to do is go into the bush and camp for a night by yourself, or maybe 2 nights by yourself, and then walk up the road and keep walking at nighttime with no flashlight on or anything until you feel your system kicked in. And that's important to do it very systematic like this. So I'm pretty confident. I can see the fire over here. I'm still safe. The truck's right there. It's within running range, But you keep walking through the bush on the road until you feel your system kicked in. That's telling you now you're moving to your primal, instinctual, kind of aboriginal type tradition that we used to be in for tens of thousands of years. We were in that world before. That's slowly been weaned apart, and we become electronic, and we become instant gratification. And whatever we need, I can turn this light on. If it's too dark, I can phone somebody with my cell phone. You strip everything away. Life and God are interested in one thing, is to teach you who you are when everything is bloody well stripped away. And most of us will find we're little children in older bodies, because I don't know what an adult is, even though I'm 57.
That's the thing, Leon. I think I used to watch these shows that would come on. It was called like Alone.
Yeah.
You may have watched it, where they put somebody out by themselves, and in the middle of the wilderness, and then they see how long they can last. Well, I could watch, and I could get a chuckle out of that. After watching the first 2 or 3 days, these people are starting to crack up because they've been used, their whole life is just filled with stimulus, and we're constantly overstimulated. Everything, this is hitting you all the time. And when you go out in the woods, man, there's peace, there's calm. You don't get all that, you're not overstimulated, and it makes people realize, if they're not comfortable with themselves, they're not really capable of being alone.
Well, and that's a brilliant point, Chris, because what actually happens is it backfires on you. Instead, because what's actually making you more freaked out is you're not used to being in your own skin in that style of emotional rhythm. Right. Because, like you said, if you guys,
you get a certain, I can explain it. I think.
Go ahead.
Like when I'm in a store. Of course, I've been a loss prevention guy for years. When I'm in a store, there's a rhythm to the store. There's a rhythm to wait. And this is how I determine whether or not somebody's going to steal something. I can see it the minute they walk in.
That's right.
There's a certain cadence. There's a certain rhythm that the way shoppers work. Normal shoppers, the way they come in, the way they act, the way they even look, or not look per se physically, but they look with their eyes, or they behave. The minute I see that break in cadence, it alerts me, because that's the surroundings I've controlled myself to understand really quick.
That's
Boom.
Right.
There's something wrong right there.
Right. And over the years, what's happened is it stopped from being, again, cognitive. You're thinking about trying to find it, to be now subconscious, where you can just see it on a person. Right.
Yep.
And Steve is brilliant. Steve and I love him so much, because he thinks a very specific way, because he's got a certain gifting about the way he thinks. And I have a very certain gifting way, I think, which is, I think, backwards than most people. So I've always had to reflip everything around when I'm articulating to people, because they can't see it the way that I see it. And so when he had an experience last year, Steve, you can help me with this in case I'm wrong, but the incident that happened with him, when all of a sudden he hears something over there, and most people go, "Hey, what's that over there?" His brain didn't go where most people would have done. His brain went to, what did you say again, Steve?
Hello.
See how he's responding? His internal sense is, oh, hello, inquisitive and curious, and almost a bit of playfulness in it. And part of what Chris and I were chatting about a little earlier is you have to practice in those zones, so you go to the, oh, hello, instead of the, where's my Depends? I hope I'm wearing them.
And the exact event that Leon was talking about was a stone, probably about this size, being tossed gently into a tree that was a few feet away from where we were standing. So I don't think a bear did that. I don't think an elk did that.
Come on, Steve, sure did. They're evolving, man. They're
I find it interesting, because, Leon, what you do is you basically reverse engineer the way people think.
Yeah, and I put emotional narrative too, so they have a roadmap from the inside out instead of being a academic just dispensing information from the outside. But I don't know what I hear. What sounds like good ideas, but doesn't change anything inside myself. So,
what I love about this, you see, there's even a moment of self-reflection when you talk about Steve and how that, where his was the fun, playful, hello, back to it. Mine, like I really dig behavior stuff.
Yeah.
So mine was just to be really quiet and just freeze and watch. What's it going to do? What's it going to do? Let me shake the light. What's it going to do? Oh, it's walking away. That's how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So I understand how we're each based. Huh?
I mean, I didn't see where anything was. I was talking to the person who was sharing the research area with me. And as we were talking, this thing happens over to the side. And by the way, my brain was primed for this because 3 times in this area before the stone was tossed, we heard a real low whoop. So we heard this coming from that area.
Now, if my audience is wondering where this is pertinent to Sasquatch research, I think it's tantamount because it can explain some motivations of people who see them. Some researchers for ourselves, for the researchers themselves, that they need to have this introspection about themselves. Like, why are they always seeing Sasquatch? Because they're expecting to. Does the folks, the 2 folks in particular I'm talking about that go out every other weekend, we're going to do our Sasquatch research, and they see Bigfoot everywhere. Are they hoaxing us, or really do they think they're seeing them, or do they think they're hearing them walking around because they're so predisposed to their belief systems?
And that can happen. That can happen to people that actually have a bona fide real life sighting or experience with one of these creatures. Because after that, they get kind of tainted. They're like, from then on, every snap of every twig in the woods, it's a Bigfoot. Oh, it's a Bigfoot. Now, because they had seen one, they actually know they're out there. So everything becomes Bigfoot.
Now, my question is this, and this one's a good one for Leon.
Great.
but people that have that, could that be part of it due to a PTSD from actually seeing a Sasquatch?
Well,
they don't have.
Sure. I mean, I got nailed on this just a little while ago, and you guys kind of know what the thing was. I watched a show or whatever like that, and I did a mistake of saying, actually, it wasn't a mistake; it was an educational opportunity. And one of the comments I said, if you look at this particular timestamp with this guy talking, I said, there's a tell there. And where most people went to was I was attacking the guy and I didn't believe the guy and all that kind of stuff. But no one ever asked me to this day, what is the tell are you talking about? What does the tell you, Leon? And what the tell tells me is the difference from when I'm watching people online share their story between someone who believes they're experiencing Sasquatch from someone who has experienced a Sasquatch. And Steve again, I got too many Steves. There's not CC, but actually Steve. As an investigator, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And that's what's kind of missing on the whole online scene, which is actually not helping us move 0% forward at all. Is the idea of knowing how to train yourself, not just in this. I think Steve or CC might have touched on this before, but you have to do it in multiple areas so that you have the capacity to negotiate what you're actually looking at. So people are always talking about, well, I'm looking at this evidence and that. Well, first of all, can you recognize the evidence? Do you know how to analyze evidence? Do you know what a tree snap is? Do you know why tree snap snapped? Do you know why this particular tree snap has snapped? So when I'm watching people, like their body language and stuff, there's a big difference between somebody who is sincere. Don't get me wrong. It's not that they're not sincere because they're into Bigfoot and they're all excited about Bigfoot and they have these experiences, but they have this apophenia, which is a thought process where you start connecting these dots. Now your brain's connecting the dots because you've already told it with intent. I like this idea. I like this car. So I don't care whether you think you're in charge of your life. You're not. Your brain is going. You have to learn how to vet that kind of data when your brain's already trying to help you by giving you this information. But you better know how to interpret that information when it comes up in your frontal cortex, and then it takes your nervous system a feeling of, I feel this is exciting. See, if it's exciting, it's a good feeling, so it must be true. This is what happens, unfortunately, in our bodies. Positive feelings feel like they're reinforcers for facts, but they're not. I can be sincere, but I can definitely be sincerely wrong, and I have been numerous times. So I'm not sure if this quote goes in here quite well, but I've been using it lately. It is possible for all the birds to be flying in the wrong direction. 100%.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so if all the birds can be flying in the wrong direction, and we're on we're online on YouTube looking at Bigfoot, and the priming narrative is consistently, say, 80 to 90% the same narration, but no one's really solidly vetting the information. And they're not telling us why it's a Sasquatch. So they're just telling us, well, these are Sasquatch, these are Sasquatch structures, this represents a Sasquatch. If you're not putting that middle part in is what we're needing, can you please explain why it is a Sasquatch from the inside out, from your eyes? How do you know that this is done by a Sasquatch and not done by another reason? And like anything, if you ask me, Leon, how do you know that how do you know my transmission's gone on my car compared to how my motor's gone on my car? Because some people don't even know that there's two different mechanisms. Right. Well, if I can explain it to you and show you, then you'll go, oh, okay. Because no offense to any ladies out there, but I had a friend that actually, I had two. One was a male and one was a female, and both of them blew out their transmissions. And when they went and talked to the mechanic said, "You've blown out your transmission." And both responded back, "Well, can't we just change the motor?"
Yeah.
Well, you can, but it can fix your transmission.
Yeah, if it's got a new transmission connected to it, sure, you can swap them both out.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of vulnerability, and I think that's what's so sad about everything that's online is. And it's not that people aren't intelligent. It's just that they've been spoon-fed. Because, again, if you're excited about any topic and you come online and you find channels that are narrating this, whatever your interest happens to be for the topic you're interested in, you're going to start following people, and you're already trusting. So you're trusting that the channel's good, and plus you feel good after you watch the channel. But as time goes on, what ends up happening, there's some consistency of no depth to it. There's no meat and potatoes. And when Steve CC talks about the baloney detection kit, it's important that you learn about the baloney detection kit because it's in your own head. You got to learn, is it baloney? Am I feeding myself BS or not?
Hey, we have
I want to feel right, and I want to feel important, and I want to feel, and this isn't any topic, like it doesn't matter. I'm a lawyer, I feel really important. I'm a doctor, I feel really important. Well, if your identity is what you do, then you're screwed, because all you're saying, I can just strip that away. If your identity is what you have, all I have to do is strip that away. That's your identity. No, your identity is deeper than that. You have great value and worth because you actually are. But if you are psychologically fractured from knowing that truth, that's the most solidest truth you'd ever know about yourself, that you've always had great value, then you are set up in the bush or online to follow major conspiracy theories and stuff like that. You don't just have conspiracy theory thinking in your head. It happens usually between 4 to 7 or 9 years old. It's already programmed in your system. So if you come from a very unpredictable environment, well, that's going to make you very suspicious. And if you've got authority figures, mom and dad, and they're not very consistent, you're not going to, when you get older, have any kind of roadmap to understand that maybe not the government's out to get you. Because we hear that all the time. Canada's so different than the US's narrative I hear online about, the government's doing this. No, it's the government. The government in Canada is kind of like, beer and moose. This is what we do here. So, you show us the body, we'll take a peek at it. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Hey, we say all the time. Hey, yeah, that's a moose. Yeah, hey, yeah, that's a Sasquatch. That's what we would say. We investigate it, we check it out. We have a total different mindset up here in regards to Sasquatches and stuff. So, I don't want to be over the top on that statement, because I have a lot of great American friends, Steve CC being one of them, that I can trust.
Leon.
Well, I've been watching your channel. I really see how you guys like to hide in the back side of your channel instead of showing your faces, so I can't read your body language, you little stinking hiders. You put up a whole screen for the viewer to watch, and all you see is this huge screen, and you don't see the actual people. So just saying. It's my pet peeve for the day.
That's the thing. I watch some of those YouTube videos, which I rarely do watch the Bigfoot YouTube videos anymore because they seem to be grouping into similar every day. There's a new video every day. This is what we got Bigfoot doing this today. Tomorrow there'll be another video. We caught Bigfoot doing this today. And it's just like they've got to be the luckiest people. They got to be the luckiest people in the world to go out and have an encounter every day, and not only have the encounter, get it on film and then put it up on YouTube. And, I'm like, man, that's just not just a little hard to believe. I just can't believe that. It's impossible.
We've got to post a video this afternoon, so that encounter better happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's Steve, Cece, and I. We've been working on this for quite a while.
Bob Lemley has a question for you, Leon.
Okay.
Here it is. How hard is it to learn to speak Canadian?
Well, the first thing you're going to have a problem with as an American is you have to get rid of any kind of unpoliteness, because the biggest phrases are always sorry and thank you and all that kind of stuff. That's the hardest thing. Unless you want to learn French, that's totally even weird. So
past that, I think it's just take if you're in Minnesota, just take "don't you know" and substitute "I."
Parlez-vous poo-poo?
Parlez-vous poo-poo? Is that the best French you got, buddy?
Oui.
Yeah, I gotta say, I've not met too many Canadians being in Kentucky. Okay, we don't get that many.
Great.
But the ones I have met have been really, really polite. And if you compare that to somebody from upstate New York, no, nothing against you, Steve, but or maybe from Long Island, those people are rude, man. I'm sorry, they are rude. And if you wave hello to them, they might perceive that as a threat to their life.
When was the last time you were to Long Island?
Oh no, it's been a long time. No.
Okay, so
I had my best friend Keith Van Emmerich is from Long Island, and we were in the Air Force together, and he was just weird. I mean,
Leon, can you please explain to him about his confirmation bias?
Yeah.
Long Island is.
Well, I love Keith to death, but he was weird.
I can give you the experiences I've had with some of the Canadians I've met in New York, but I really can't, because usually they're driving about 140 past me.
Yeah, they're trying to find the egg. What the hell have I walked into? The Canadians running to Americans sometimes is like a codependency person, like a dog. They lick your face.
But I might add, those are the French Canadians.
Well, okay. Yeah. So, anyways.
Oh gosh, what was that movie? Oh God, it was Canadian Bacon.
Yeah,
had Dan Aykroyd in it, and he was the police officer that pulled these guys over. And you know the story. They had "Screw Canada" and all this other stuff written on the side of this truck. And he said, "Oh no, you guys are going to have to post that in French too."
yeah. We're like Monty Python, and we're like Monty Python in the ways. Always look on the bright side of life.
Of course. Remember the South Park movie?
Oh yeah.
All you Canadians and your floppy heads. Because they always do the Canadians different.
Well, I'm going to get a little attack personally here. I think I'm.
It's all in good fun.
Sorry.
Hey, now come on. We had Steenberg on last week or a couple of weeks ago, and I said, "Well, how's it feel to be? I can imagine what the Canadians were thinking around election time. They must have felt like the people that lived above the stairs of the meth lab downstairs."
Yeah. No, that was a good analogy when you first said that on the I just thought, oh yeah, that was totally, we didn't know what was going on. I think most of the other people too, like it's funny when you talk to kind of colonial like with us, like Britain and Australia and them, we behind the scenes watching what's going on in the States, we were just like, what is,
yikes,
why can't they see what we're seeing here? Like, what's the problem? Like, you know, and we're not saying we're the best at anything.
I heard the oldest Englishman over in the UK say, well, you know, I said this once, I said it again, those bloody Yanks, they're going to fold in a couple of 100 years. Still jealous over the revolution over there.
Yeah.
But I have this meme I say for one of my UK friends. No offense to our UK fans. I know we have a couple in the audience, but it says blame Cornwallis, and I throw that one up there.
No politics. No politics.
Chris,
no politics.
You apparently don't know who Cornwallis was.
Oh, yes, I do.
Who was he?
He was the commanding general for the British forces during the Revolutionary War.
Okay, that was 200 and umpteen years ago. I think
yes,
that foregoes kind of politics.
It's political.
Oh, no.
It's political.
No.
Hey, we're talking about Bigfoot. If there's anything that's not political, come on. I mean, I saw that video I just posted on this is disappointing or whatever it says Sasquatch videos we once thought were and turned out that they're not. Some of the Goonie Ball comments I've gotten. I mean, most everyone's been really awesome for sure, but it's like, oh, nice opinion. I'm thinking you got all the evidence right there. I even gave you more evidence. I gave you the names of the people who did the costumes. I mean, how much more evidence you want? Well, we'd like you to take us right to the person and interview them. Like,
wow.
You know, we don't want, that's, again, I get that there's entertainment shows out here and that's fine, but tell everybody you're an entertainment show, not a researching show or an investigating show. It's not the same.
Once you expose the facts, I mean, what else do you got to do? You can't just beat them over the head with it. You're going to believe this because this is the facts.
Well, not to get political, but it was Churchill who said a lie gets halfway around the world before, you know, the truth gets a chance to get its pants on.
Yeah.
So.
And now we can get around the world in a day.
Besides, Bigfoot isn't really a political subject; it's a religious subject.
Yeah,
very true.
It is. Yeah.
And Steve, elaborate on that.
Well, first of all, you have this really fractious community, the so-called Bigfoot community, that I've started to come to look at as it's really a bunch of loosely associated villages, and these villages have
I thought Leon was taking time to put his tinfoil hat on, but
no, I didn't want to light a cigarette in front of you guys because I don't want to know I'm smoking. It's really embarrassing. I was telling Steve I should quit smoking when I'm online, but you guys are all smoking, so I figured it must be a casual night.
It's okay, man. You know, everybody knows, you know, if you smoke, you kill yourself. So
these villages have these competing ideas, but they have this kind of a common thread of the Sasquatch creature, but you also have, well, everyone knows where the torches and the pitchforks are when there are disagreements about something going on.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've come to realize in it is there are a lot of people who are just in it for the story. They're just in it for entertainment. They're not really after the facts about the creature. They're not really after understanding the creature. And a lot of people who are hosting channels who host live witnesses and things like that, they're not necessarily looking for information about the creature. They want the story, and they're in it for the entertainment and doing the entertainment, not so much the investigation.
Right.
And those people just aren't doing what I want to do and where I want to go.
Yeah.
So my take on it is the reason why it's so religious. Parts of it, not all of it, is religious. It's because it's based on, a lot of the folks base their stuff on belief.
Absolutely.
The stick structures is belief.
Yeah.
Nothing scientific about it. Nothing, no facts, no investigative studies other than this is an investigation. It's a broken tree. Did you see what did it? No. Are there tracks around it? No. Is there any hair around it? No. But a Bigfoot had to do it because I can't explain it any other way.
Yeah.
That's
and I live in a high-rise
religion.
apartment in New York City, and I've been in the forest, at least at the park in the city, Center Park, Central Park, 5 times. So I know what the real forest is like. Oh, yeah, you got to be in the forest so you get the hell scared out of you. Then you can really appreciate how quickly things can go exceptionally bad, which will make you up your game to be more serious about what you're doing.
And
But go ahead.
It's okay to believe in a Bigfoot. It's okay to believe it. But that doesn't mean you're entitled to your own set of facts.
I disagree. I disagree.
I
disagree. I don't think belief has anything to do with it.
Well, no, I'm just saying for your regular person, somebody wants to say they believe in Bigfoot, that's fine.
Okay, if somebody's interested in the topic and they're thinking, hey, there's a lot of sightings going on. I see shaky videos and stuff. Is it possible that these things could exist? Well, maybe. And I'm going to study into it more and maybe even go out into the woods and maybe I'll have a sighting. But until they actually have that sighting, they're not going to believe it. So, I don't really, for somebody that's already had the sighting, it's nothing to do with belief.
Well,
I mean, they know they're there.
There's a word right there you used. I know. It's the same thing with people who believe they're experiencing Sasquatch compared to people who saw a Sasquatch.
Right.
Correct.
And that's the difference between the two. But if you're curious, remember there's all these other factors. You're joining a community. You get to meet up, and go to these conventions or go to these campouts and go to this. So you start connecting up with people, and so there's a bonding that happens in any system: family system, church system, work system, business system, sports system, where this camaraderie starts happening. But if you are from one team and you go to another team's event, you will find out fairly quickly whether or not they recognize you as one of the others. And as Steve from CC would say, the body set, not part of the pod people,
Got that, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's what the problem is we've moved from tribalism, which is a capacity for tribes to discuss what their information is back and forth, and especially if there is something that's gone awry in the environment, they can still have a discussion to solve the problem. But when it moves to troopism, they don't care because it's now a core belief system, and their belief system is righter than yours, and this is where the conflict clash ends up happening.
That gets back to religion, where people made churches with different views of how things are supposed to be. But then again, all the churches go into a belief system into something that they've never seen. So
that's right.
I don't know if too many people that have actually seen one of these creatures really fall into that category of joining those groups.
Well, but think of how crazy you would feel about going into systems that are feeling that way. The ones who have no idea what they're talking about are the crazy ones. But they're going to turn, like when I teach in courses stuff, I always say to the people in the course, I say, don't go back and talk to your family about what we're talking about, because they're going to turn on you like wolves. Because you're going to have a depth of wisdom. And knowledge is different than wisdom. Knowledge is the information about stuff. Wisdom is really getting what the hell the game is. And the problem is if you go into a system and you declare the reality of the system, Matt Moneymaker claimed in 2020, these are the best Sasquatch tracks this year in Slocan Lake. This is his declaration, the president of BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researching Organization. That means you're on the field. They're on the field investigating it. So what do? I take our team up there because it's by our place. They're moose tracks. They're obviously moose tracks. No one's been on there. So you have these people who start rising up of importance, and that's the problem with systems. When you look at systems are patterns. And when you find out systems, the good thing about system study is you can lay a blueprint over all systems and you ask all the questions you would about the system. Who's the number one people? How did they get there? The Bigfoot community, you're talking about the Christian community. Yeah, there's 30,000 different denominations, right? It's been around for over 2,000 years. All of them are Christian, but you can start off with Jesus and the 12 disciples and then go through the system and see how those all spread out. Now, the Bigfoot online in Western culture is a great system to study. Western culture, not saying earlier than basically the 50s. But it started out with certain people, the Four Horsemen, and they had ideas and stuff like that. And then people started building on those ideas. And it's a nice system because you can start following where the woo starts coming in.
Right.
Yeah, and then you can start following how the woo shifted itself from certain ideologies of the unknown, supernatural kind of stuff, which is stuff that we don't believe have an answer for. So we go into this idea that it must be something unexplained. Well, that makes sense. That's in our past. I mean, 1,000 years ago, if we were on a ship in the middle of the ocean and we saw these illuminated 6 foot long, 7 foot long things floating under the boats, we would think they were spirits from Davy Jones' locker. But today we realize that's plasma from a bacteria that when fish or people or anything goes through it, it ignites or it fires itself up. And that's the same part of the brain today, because it's been around in our brain for hundreds of thousands of years. It's the same part of the brain that gets hijacked. And that's what people don't understand. And you have to be able to, call your own card on that. And I don't care, like Steve, when you're doing an investigation, you want to know what is going on. And that's the key thing, what you're talking about, Chris. If you've seen one or if you're interested in one, and you're really into this, and I would think that 90% of people that are online just doing this stuff, they're not that level like us four would be here. But I'm really freaking interested to know what the hell's going on. But where would you go do the resources for it? Well, you find a couple of good resources like Thomas Steenberg and stuff, and you look and they read books and their stuff. But then you come online and you're saturated with 90%, or how did Thomas say, Steve CC to Matt from Central Florida Bigfoot. He says, yeah, but Matt, you've only been online for 2 years. They come and they dump trucks of just pure garbage on you. And then Matt says, well, you sift through it. Dump trucks, Matt. Yeah. Every year, more and more dump trucks of the same narration, the same claims, but no one's saying that center part there.
And sometimes they'll pick up the old piles, and then pick it back up and dump it back on you again years later. Yeah, saying it's
like that's
just,
right.
I love it. That's the Sean O'Bannon hoax. That's this hoax. That's that hoax. That's constantly. I'm sure in 5 years somebody will post the Sean Bannon monster, the Redwoods monster picture.
Yeah.
Say, oh, look, it's real.
And it's a hell of a great, I got sucked into that one. That was a hook, line, and thing. I remember showing people that whole thing. Look at this one. This is great. Running through the bush there. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, right? That is what we're all hoping for, but it's hoaxed. It is hoaxed. I would say it's hoaxed. But misrepresented would be a better one for that video. But it looked really good. That's the evidence we want. If we can do that with a fake one, that we should be able to do that with a live one. But we can't even find the bloody things because we're not asking ourselves the right question, doing the right due diligence of training ourselves. How do you even find a track? How do you learn to read the track? How do you learn to follow the ground? How do you learn to follow
the basics? The basics. We've forgotten the basics.
Yes. Well, totally.
I think folks like Steenberg and myself and a lot of some of the older guys that were running around before the internet knew the basics. Like, okay, we got to track this. So how do we track it? Well, just like any other tracker. Okay, let's start, am I looking for broken branches? Hell yeah, but I'm not looking for tree breaks just anonymously. They got to be in concert with something.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. When I look for tree breaks, I'm not, I don't find one and go, look, a Bigfoot did this. Well, okay, if a Bigfoot did that, there's got to be a swath of tree breaks for where it walked through.
That's right.
But you don't see that. That's what I look for, is that swath, that something large moved through an area.
Well, and again, think of
not for these miscellaneous, there's one tree break. Oh,
right.
Here's a sick structure.
That's right. So when you're walking through the forest, you got something that's, say, 7 to 8 feet tall, 3.5 feet, 4 feet across. Again, people are not trained visually to know what they're actually seeing when they're going through the bush. I see a track. I look at the track. I keep following the track. Well, just out of fun, learn about a whole bunch of other things. Again, those 3 things I just mentioned: reading tracks, reading the ground, learning how to track tracks, not mice tracks, by the way. Yep. Inside joke there. But the
Steve
idea
told us that.
when you can see when your eyes get more information and more education, then you have more options to put the tossed salad approach together. So when I'm reading body language with people, they kind of think I'm looking for something specific. Well, I am looking for something specific, but not what they're looking for. I'm looking for what should be there that's not present there. But you have to know what should be there in order to recognize it's missing there, even though a person seems like they're crying. Somebody's killed my daughter. Somebody return my daughter, please. See all that action there? That's hiding, is what that is.
Yep.
I can't take this anymore. Give me a minute. That's buying time. That's what that is.
Yep.
If their hands come down there, you don't see snot in their nose, their face, their eyes are all puffed up. And then sometimes what they'll do is this, and they'll move their hand out of the way so you can see the one tear they've been able to strain out of their eyes. So that I'm not bullshitting you. That's what I keep
squeezed out.
So
yeah.
I mean, so the idea about, again, if you looked at a person's body as a forest, there's a lot of data coming in. If you can know what you're looking for the correct data you should be seeing, it'll help you lead you to a more factual conclusion in the investigation. But if you're not, and again, I'm not blaming anybody. The key part is it's been so bloody frustrating for me after 5 years of, I didn't come online just to look for a Bigfoot because I seen one. I came online to study what happens to somebody who comes online looking for a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Thomas will rag on me if I don't say that. And also study the Bigfoot's community as a system to try to help them to find out what they're missing. And I'll tell you what they're missing. That became evident when I went up to Slocan for that Matt Moneymaker's claims, the best Sasquatch of 2020. This is in North America. This guy's saying it. The president of an organization that we go to, the general public would go to, believing by the priming of the narrative that they collect and vet, according to, if you read their Bigfoot or BFRO webpage, stringent. These are the words on their webpage. Trained. Are they now? If the president isn't going to do this, first of all, he's embarrassed everybody else who's trying, who's gone through their courses or their weekend stuff, who honestly maybe are sincere and mean well about this. But if the president isn't doing it, you can't trust any of it because everything comes into suspicion now.
Well, yeah, but Leon, people make mistakes. Granted, this is a big one.
Go ahead. Yeah, totally. This is the differences. That's why if anyone checks out my channel and you look for a video called "The Big Fear."
Yeah, but you know, in truth, though, I see this very often. I mean, and what it is that I think confirmation bias, and this is something I'm very, very alert and attuned to. Especially when I had my team deployed. And that's why so many times we come back, nothing. Because we're very attuned to that.
Yeah.
I see this hundreds of times on Facebook by people that believe that they've actually have evidence. And I'm looking at like, that's a snowshoe hare in snow.
Yeah, totally. I watched one of those the other day.
But you're willing to come back with nothing.
Huh?
You're willing to come back with nothing.
That's it.
That's the key.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's a group. There's three separate groups. There's people like me that will go out there, and if we come across something, wonderful. If we come across something, it doesn't come out the next day. You're lucky if it comes out the next week, because we're vetting it. We're looking at it. We're sending it to people to look at. What do you think? There's a lot of people I know that send me stuff from organizations that, what do you think? And I know they're sending it to other people too, to get a consensus to see if it's something worth putting out there. Then you have the group that puts stuff out there because of confirmation bias. Oh, look at these tree structures. Look at these tracks. Look at these. That's why I think that's the realm where this greatest tracks comment makes. And then finally you have the ones that have to come back with something, the ones Steve's talking about. And I think by far the biggest group is the group in the middle, the group that has such confirmation bias, and they'll defend it and fight. You'll say, well, look at the track this way. If you're looking at, hey, I found these tracks. Now, I'm not saying you did it. You're the one who created this track, but if you look at it, there is no flow pattern to the track. There's no movement to the track. It looks like it just came down straight and got picked back up. There's no sediment going forward of the track, which there should be if it's a forward moving creature. There should be some sedimentary shifting. And you'll tell that person that's I'm sorry, but that is not a track. And they'll fight. What do you mean? I'm not saying you did it. I'm just saying that, you put it out there. What do you think? I'm telling you what I think. And now I've told you what you think, and you're not hearing what you want to hear. You've just convinced me that you're working on a confirmation basis bias scale. And that's what I see.
Well,
so
part of the research you're doing, sorry, Steve, but part of the research you're doing is on the witness. And
absolutely.
So if you were explaining, like we were talking to somebody the other night there about a track and stuff, and I said, well, it looks to me it's this way. And the reason why it looks this way. And as you explain to them so they can see from your inside out, and Steve Cece was talking about, we can't transfer, or you're on the deck of the Enterprise. What's that, Steve?
To teach you something, I can't just teleport my knowledge into your brain.
Right.
I have to build neural pathways.
Yes.
That is a process of education, and those neural paths have to connect to other parts of your brain so you know how it relates into the world around you.
But by the way, Steve, is that Scotty taking a poop behind you? That's not the poop deck. It's engineering. Get out of there. No.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, come on. Get with the program there, Steve. But I know Steve's great. It's like, and that's when they give you this.
I'll switch to Babylon 5 then.
There you go. Oh, that's nice. I like that. It's got trees in it.
Hey, is that a marijuana plant back there? What the?
He is in Washington State.
That's very true.
You never know what they'll grow in hydroponics.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first, well, not first questions, but one of the questions I get around to in my first interview with a person is, I always say, so what kind of, prior to your sighting, what did you know about Bigfoot? I always throw that question. Well, I've watched Finding Bigfoot about, 8 times, 9 times. And then I'm like, or they watch Finding Bigfoot and Expedition Bigfoot, or Expedition Bigfoot, or whatever show with a show du jour. And then the next thing I know, I say, are you watching any paranormal shows? Just because I want to see if they're going to cross the mesh on that too. But it's one of the qualifying questions. Does this witness have a propensity for a confirmation bias? I watch Finding. I'm a big fan of Finding Bigfoot. And then they just happen to go out in the woods the one time they go out in the woods and they see a Bigfoot. It's kind of stuff like that we have to get through that minutia. Definitely confirmation bias is always on my mind talking to witnesses, and what they know. Sometimes people will come to me, well, I looked at the internet and blah, 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 blah. And now you got to they've been kind of tainted a little bit, because now did their description get better since they've been on the internet? Because now they're reading other people's encounters.
Yeah.
And they say, well, it had a conical shaped head. I think mine had a conical shaped head. Did they, now when you get that witness, is it a fresh virgin witness, or have they? That's why the first thing in an investigation they do is they separate the witnesses to talk to them.
Right. Because
you don't want that corruption.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing that we have to deal with. So yeah, as you asked, you have to investigate the witness. That is the most important. That is the focal point of a sighting report, is the witness. When you have a film, if somebody says, "Oh, I got this video of Bigfoot," and it's ambiguous, or if it doesn't prove it's a Bigfoot, or it looks great, the center point of that film is the witness, and people fail to see that constantly because it's what they can see for that instant gratification, rather than let's dig in and see if everything matches well or doesn't.
Yeah, part of your responsibility is to assist people to help them verify from their own perceptions of whether or not they actually experienced it. To the credit of the people who reported the Slocan, that Sasquatch track was in 2020, they didn't report it that way. They just contacted BFRO. But after we went out and talked to them and interviewed them, that we actually took them out to took them to the foot of snow. We showed them how to check out tracks in any type of track in snow. If it's a foot deep, that's the best thing you could have, because the print at the bottom, the track at the bottom is protected.
Right.
It'll be like an ice track. So it's a wolf track. It's going to look like an ice shoe. You can actually probably pour anything, mold stuff in it, and you'll get exactly what you're doing. So we filmed that all out. But the key part was we took the witnesses back and we said, and we had the skeptic, we have a skeptic that's on our team, and we had him do the excavating down and then move towards the track in the snow. And he, I mean, that would have been the sweetest person to give. Imagine a skeptic, I don't believe in this, and all of a sudden he comes across a nice big freaking 60-inch print. What a gifting to him. And watch and film him. Like, holy shit, you guys are right. Yeah. So we did that with the people who were witnesses, but what we showed them was the idea of, first of all, this is how you actually do this. How many videos have you seen online where they show tracks in the snow and there are straight lines? Well, bloody learn how to excavate snow tracks. So it'll tell you every time what's at the bottom of it. So when you some kind of a fake,
I gotta ask, when you did with the witnesses, what was their reaction when they saw it was a moose?
That it was what?
Yeah, it was a moose, correct?
Yeah.
Right. What was their reaction?
They were totally great. Matter of fact, they were impressed because we showed them how to find out.
And that's the cool thing about legit witnesses.
Yeah.
Is that when you finally show, like years ago, I want to say it was 2006, we had this photo from LaSalle Falls, Wisconsin. And the guy was really, I have a video on YouTube on the channel of it. But the guy said, listen, here's this picture my girlfriend took. There's something standing behind me, or it looks like it's something standing behind me. I don't have a clue. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything, smell anything, nothing. Turn around. I turned around and ask him if he can send me the index print. And he does. He sends me the index print with all the pictures he took on the trip. Because this is the time he was using a photo camera. Or a film camera, I'm sorry. He gave us the GPS coordinates. And one of the guys that I know lived nearby, he took a bunch of pictures, and we realized that it was rock falling. And this rock, because the leaves had fallen, kind of given this paradolic effect of looking like a Sasquatch standing there. And it does. It looks really good. Head, long arms, leg, appears to be a partially obscured leg behind a tree, but it was rock. And the foliage was covering it just in the right way to make it look like that. But his reaction was completely, oh, thank God. I'm glad we figured it out. That is awesome. Now I can put this one to rest. And that was their attitude, and that's the way a legit witness is that they don't want to have, you don't want to have a witness that has a bias towards, well, what do you mean that's a rock? He didn't come out and say that, because if he did, then I would be very curious as to what his motivations were.
Yeah. Well, one of the witnesses, she was a PhD in psychology, and it was funny watching her when we were filming her, because you could see she was processing, and you could see her shift what she thought it was, and that's what you're looking for. Is this an openness to understand and to learn and be educated, instead of just somebody coming in and declaring and feeding the narrative that's already primed in their thinking process, and then they start telling other people. That, well, yeah, we had this researcher and he said it was Sasquatch and stuff. And then they have us show up there, and we show them what it is. And they, yeah, no, it wasn't a Sasquatch net, but they still want us to come up. They have fantastic property, prime location for Sasquatch. They have a beautiful, nice big cabin we can stay in for free. But they're just great people. And plus she works, her area of expertise or interest is very similar to mine. She deals with cults. So we're going to have a hell of a good time visiting in the summertime up in their place and having some really good, why do people believe what they believe? And it's, there's some great YouTube channels or YouTube shows you can punch up about, look that up. Why do people believe what they believe? Why do you believe what you believe? Are you sure you know why you're believing what you're believing? Because I can guarantee you probably don't. I think you just like the rest of us, you walk through life, you've absorbed a lot of information and all of a sudden it comes up when a person makes a comment about something that your brain's familiar with, and it pops out, the brain pops out the idea. You don't know what you're talking about, but you got information about it.
So my buddy Jeff asked a question, and it's kind of funny. It's that question I talked to Cece and Chris about earlier. You know, in your opinion, how many Sasquatch do you think that are out there, and do you think they're only large women, or does it vary? I have no idea. I'm not an ecologist. I would have no way of saying anything but pure opinion, and I don't have an opinion. I once did, but I don't anymore. I'm smart enough to realize that my opinion is about the same as the man in the street, because I have no technical knowledge or research enough to know the number of Sasquatch that are out there.
I know there are at least 4.
I know there's at least 2 because I've seen, I know there's at least 2 because I've seen. So if there's 2, there's got to be more because somebody had to make them. But
well, there's another way you can find that data out, or be a little more closer with finding maybe information that out. And that would be if you looked at animals that happen to be predatory animals, how much area do they need square miles wise? So a black bear needs about anywhere between 300 to 500 square miles.
But they hibernate.
No, wait, that's right. Mountain lions, on the other hand, they don't hibernate. Yeah. They need 1,000 square miles.
Right.
A deer needs between 13 miles to 17 miles. And so and again, you guys just do studies on animals and what's their feeding range.
But then again, a chimpanzee has a 20 to 24 mile home range.
Right. But again, you also have to take in, there's other things you have to take in factor with that is, like in Canada here, you're going to get snow between anywhere between 4 months to 6 to 8 months of the year, depending on where you're located up here. Yeah. So that's going to make a difference as well. So, but there's, that's the thing is if people can think out of the box differently and look at other species and find out, well, if say it's eating just all flesh and blood kind of stuff. Well, what other animals eat flesh and blood and how big of a range? So you don't have to get the exact number, but if it's a huge range, then and a Sasquatch is eating just meat, say, it's going to be a huge range. If it's a mixed diet, it's going to be medium range. If it's not a mixed diet and it's mostly vegetarian or something like that, it's going to be a smaller range. But so that kind of gives you some kind of a bit of a figure to work with in regards to.
But then you have to figure in well too is that you're comparing, ungulates and ursa and feline, and you're comparing that to a primate, and that's a whole nother bag of wax because
no, slow her down again. Slow her down. Just slow her down. There's a lot of primates. Again, you could do the same transference of data. I mean, we're not talking that you're going to get 100% accurate data. What you're looking for is behaviors in, again, patterns of behaviors.
But because the Sasquatch lives in a different environment, could also throw that off for the rest of the primates as well.
Well, what about the primates? What about the primates that live in the mountains during the wintertime?
Yeah, well, exactly, but they're not necessarily higher primates, are they?
Well, what is a higher primate? What's your definition of a higher primate?
Well, look at the actual scientific classification. The higher primates are the orangs, the chimps, the gorillas.
I know what they are.
Right.
What does it mean when they're saying that is what I'm asking you.
What I mean is a specific class of primate.
Okay, and in that class, it makes them that in that class because they're like this. What is the this?
Larger brain function, more tailless. They have no tails. They have no prehensile tails. That's usually the biggest one. Is the New World monkeys, the Old World monkeys, and the higher primates, aka the great apes. The higher primates, great apes, don't have a prehensile tail. They are less. They are more cultural than the rest of them than the other ones. So their feeding habits are a little different.
I think that's the best thing to do too when we're doing research about Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Look at, everybody pretty much agrees it's a primate. I mean, there have been some reports of lizard men, okay, but I don't think that was necessary. I think those turned out to be dogs, but I don't think that's necessarily. If you study one higher primate, chances are that another one does similar things to the one you're studying.
Right.
So even though we don't know for sure what the home range of a Bigfoot is, we could do a little study about, well, what's the home range of a gorilla? How those are pretty big guys too. And, but we pretty much know their diet because everybody's been able to observe them, watch them eat and stuff. We just have to project, what might a Sasquatch be? Well, could they be vegetarians? Well, yes, they could. Could they eat meat? Well, yeah, they could. Nobody.
But then you have to, unlike the populations of chimp and gorilla, there's environmental differences. Mm-hmm. There's food source differences. There's, you have to think of their reproductive health. Is their home range greater because as evolution gathers, you realize that they can't all mate successfully close together because then they would be crossbreeding and that would cause defects. So is their range greater because of that? Because their density obviously would have to be per se less than. So there's so many factors. I wouldn't know where to begin. Like I said, not a scientist. There are scientists that can figure that stuff out. And that's the exact reason why I said I have no clue how many there are. Their home range, no idea. Do they range? Yeah, absolutely, because primates do. But
those scientists have also figured out the populations of animals that would be prey animals to these, and they estimate a certain amount are taken by prey by various predators, and a certain amount are attrited. But if there's an unrecognized predator in that environment, they're attributing something to attrition that is actually predation, and they're not even aware of it.
Yeah. And like I would say, and the reason why my answer is I don't know, and I know there's somebody out there that probably can figure it out scientifically, either by statistical information, by using other stuff. I'm smart enough to say I wouldn't have a clue. I'm smart enough to say I'm stupid.
That's what we're supposed to be doing. I mean, the idea about following these concepts and ideas is to take us down into other parts of educating that just help us out a little bit. Like an orangutan, they're not like a gorilla in regards to their energy level. Orangutans like hanging around. They're slow moving. They're not running all over the place like a gorilla can do, and so they don't cover lots of big area, but they certainly have to have a good food source in that smaller area to definitely support a whole patch of them or group of them. I guess.
I would definitely say that if orangutans and chimps populated the United States, the chimps would be up north because they're like always busy. The orangutans would be down south where they're much more relaxed and right?
Bias.
No, things are much fast. Like you go to the upper states and things are just busy.
Oh yeah.
You go to the lower states, things are relaxed. Come on, it's more welcoming.
Yeah, they're surfers. They're more like surfers.
No, that's the West Coast.
All right,
that's the West Coast. But not that relaxed.
I love the topic that Leon's been talking about your brain, how you perceive things, how it works, and understanding that will actually make everyone a better researcher.
Yep.
Because I've seen it 1,000 times, and I've talked to people. Well, I'm not 1,000, several hundred times. People go out into the woods, and if it's not something they've been doing every day, if there's any tracks out there, they're going to find them because the only place they're looking is straight down at their feet while they're walking along. Yeah. They look at their feet, step by step by step. And, you know, I noticed people walk for 20 minutes at a time and they never looked up. And I'm like, dude, you know, you're never going to see anything if you're always looking at your feet. It's good to be wary if you're in an area that has snakes, to look down and then every now and then and glance to make sure you don't step on a snake, or you're not going to trip over a log. But, you know, I always advise everybody, look down, scan up ahead about, you know, 10 or 15 feet, and then look around as you walk. You know, but people don't do that. And it's because of that they fail to perceive what's around them. They concentrate on where they're walking. And there's more to the woods than where you're walking. Well,
and just another angle at that too is when you're listening to what witnesses are reporting, it also tells you what type of brain they might have.
Right.
So they can swim. Okay, can they swim underwater is my question. Because if they can swim under the water, that means they have a part of their brain developed that you would need in order to have language as well.
Right.
So you have to be able to control your breathing when you're talking. And what's another one that would be, you know, do they have a higher conscious availability to them? What does that mean? Higher conscious availability is, can they recognize themselves when they see themselves, the way an elephant can, the way a crow can, the way a dolphin can? Because that's about awareness. And if I have awareness, that means my brain, it would be more to this idea, you know, I hear all the time, well, they're very unique and very smart and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but what kind of smart? Instinctually smart?
Right.
Or consciously processing smart? Right. Meaning that they're assessing, analyzing, and puzzle solving. So like an octopus can solve something, learn it once, and it'll remember it every other time. A crow can usually come up with, it can do 7 steps to solve a puzzle to get to food. So, and again, those are all seem to have a conscious availability to themselves, knowing the difference between them and the others that look like them. So, and that's what I'm interested in, because that's the data that's going to help us understand, are we just looking for something that is more naturally fluent in the forest? Like, how many cougars have you actually ran into in your life? Not many people have ran into cougars. Those are fluent animals in the bush. They have a higher.
You haven't gone to the bars Chris has gone to.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, but then again, you know, talk to Matthew Johnson, and it's like, well, they're using, you know, these portals and stuff. Well, what is it? Like Steve's background there, where the guy comes in and goes, yeah, I want to go to Earth. I got an appointment for coffee around 3:13. I want to hit this part of the planet. And, you know, can you zip me over there? Because I got some friends I want to meet there. Matthew Johnson, I don't know if you ever heard of him or not, but we're having a meeting with all the other ambassadors. Like, I mean, this is loony thinking to me. It's like, that's such a far jump from reality, from what we actually know, which is basically nothing. Yeah. And it's going to continue to be basically nothing if we first don't vet everything. And we vet it in a way that we're all using a similar standard of baloney detection kit or Merton's norms. And we stop, which we can't do online. We can't do it online on the massive platforms, but we can certainly do a different style of channels online where we start connecting up with each other, that we all use a very similar standard, so that we can actually have a conversation about, holy shit. Like, it is neat for us because we are out there online and people seem to respect what we're trying to do and be honest and sincere and fair about it, that they're actually showing us some stuff. Steve had somebody reach out to him the other day that's got some pretty interesting stuff. I had, and Steve both received a message from another fellow who wanted us to check out some other stuff for him. So we kind of get the inside good stuff, you know, and that's, you have to somehow present yourself in a way that you're not caught in the cuckoo bin. But the problem is, a lot of the cuckoo bin sends a lot of stuff that's just cuckoo-ness, like you're saying, Steve. You know, like, it's like, so, and after you're doing it, you know, somebody said to me on my last video there, I was, you know, showing all these Sasquatch videos that they're not Sasquatch. And then I did this little spoof. Well, I didn't, but Phil did from Para Breakdown of, you know, here comes it. He's got MK Davis talking, and he's dubbed in this hilariously a Martian head and a gorilla outfit. And now look at it come around here. Now it's doing this and this. And so the comment the person left was, you know, I was totally into your videos and stuff like that. And I was watching this when I was totally into what I was saying. And then you did the part of the video where it's like a satire or whatever like that. And that was it. That was it. He couldn't do it. And I thought, fuck, if you don't have levity, if you don't have levity where you can come up and say, I was a complete moron, you guys. I thought it was this, and this is why I thought it, and this is why I got primed for thinking about it. So you educate people online and come true about it. If we can't joke about the seriousness, these people who attack with this seriousness of certainty that they're right, then you ask them to show you or give you at least some kind of depth conversation about their positioning, and there's nothing in it at all. So
after all, it's just Bigfoot.
Yeah, totally. I just had to send somebody to the hospital in 15 minutes of going to work this morning. That's what I ended up doing because they were dying. So that's a little more serious.
Right. Yep. That's no time to joke.
Yeah. But like this stuff is like, what do you guys know? You're defending tooth and nail an idea, basically, instead of the facts, depending on your experience, I guess. But I'm fortunate that I met Steve from Curious Cryptid and a few other people out there. It's only taken me 5 years to find the right people. Thomas Steenberg was a huge godsend from saving me out of the insanity, And I'm following you, Steve. You over the years behind the scenes stalking you, and Chris, I never really met you before. Sorry, buddy, but I know I'm worried about you already because you're hanging out with that guy up there. Not this guy, not this guy, but the other guy up there, way up there. The Brady Bunch guy at the top. So, I don't know. It's madness. That's what I've moved from crazy to madness. This is where I jumped in less than 6 months. So
guess what? It's that time, folks.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we're actually over by 5 minutes already.
Oh, well, Steve CC, have you got a YouTube channel? Do you do?
Well, yes, it's Curious Cryptid, and I also have the website, which is on the watermark just over my head here.
CuriousCryptid.com, and YouTube will be Curious Cryptid.
And of course,
Leon,
Bigfoot Okanagan. Which Steenberg told me a couple of weeks ago he would like to file an official protest. You're Canadian. You should call it Sasquatch Okanagan.
He harps on me that all the time.
But I did remember to lodge that protest at the very end.
Well, he's probably watching now anyway, so he'll come back.
I see what you did, Steve. You had a very good job telling him about that.
Yeah, totally. That Thompson character.
Thompson guy.
Yeah, we need to change it from Bigfoot Okanagan to Sasquatch.
But it was funny to have him on the show. Chris missed it, unfortunately. It was a great show. And Chris told me, he told me, you should quit smoking cigarettes. Go to a pipe.
Yeah. Love Tom.
But I love Tom. and now, he decided after the first time he was on the show, because I had to hold the phone up, decided to get the webcam and the mic now and everything. And I've turned him into a monster. He loves going on podcasts now, which is a great thing because we need his wisdom out there. That's for sure.
Yeah. He's got the history. He's the archive. He's got the history of everybody, the originals, for sure.
Amen. So folks, I think it's time to sign off. Chris, anything you want to say to the folks out there?
I just like to thank everybody for coming. Thank our guest, Steve, Curious Cryptid, and Leon. If you guys are the first time watching on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe button.
And don't forget to share.
Yeah, don't forget to share. Leave a comment. If you don't like us, leave a comment. Tell Steve you don't like his haircut or whatever.
Thanks, Chris.
I'd like to thank our lovely viewers and listeners that joined us tonight. Appreciate it. And, we really do thank a lot of you guys. You're a great audience. Steve?
Yes, we got the best audience, smartest audience in the world out there.
Sure
and I want to thank Leon and Steve for coming on tonight. And it was, like I said, it was going to be a deep dive today. That's why I have the thinking Sasquatch sitting on a stump over there. This is going to blow people's minds away, and it never ceases to inspire me the way you guys talk. So,
there's B. Hi, B.
And B finally showed up. She was late. She must be in the bleachers tonight because she can't leave, I think. Yeah. So, but anyway, next week we are still working on guests for next week. I'm trying to think. Trying to get my coconut on head straight. There were some things I was going to show tonight. We're going to move on next week. Starting next week, we're going to be doing a product of the week segment. Give you a little preview on what that's going to be. You can just go to squatchdetective.com. We already have the product of the week posted, but we got so busy tonight that we just never got around to it. So we'll do that again next week. But anyway, folks, again, thanks, guys. And on behalf of everybody here and at Squatch-D TV, we want to wish everybody a happy, safe, and healthy week. You know, everybody, thank God the pandemic is finally breaking. I don't even have to wear a mask at work anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Got my second shot.
All right. How long ago?
2 days ago.
All right. So you got a couple of weeks and you're in the clear.
Yeah, won't be long.
That is awesome.
Yep.
So, folks, again, be healthy, stay safe. God bless, and keep on squatching. We'll catch you all here next week. Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/Steve Kulls. We'll catch you all later.
Folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless, and keep on squatching.